Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Natalia Staroprava. It is 274th day of heroic struggle of Ukraine, and we are working from Medіацентру Ukraine. And we have online Maryna Bardina, People's Deputy of Ukraine. My greetings to you. My greetings to you too. Yesterday, the 23rd of November, European Parliament recognized Russia as the state sponsor of terrorism. It happened during the monthly assembly in Strasbourg. Can you please tell us about the result of what happened yesterday? So what happened yesterday is quite a positive step from the side of European Parliament. There was accepted and recognized a very important document, and we can see how it coincident with a massive shelling of Russian Federation of our country. And we saw, as a matter of fact, again, everything described there in the resolution of European Parliament, and it all happened on the premises of Ukraine. What is a positive outcome of this document is, first of all, it is an official recognition on the level of European Parliament as the organ of, as a body of European Union, Russia as a state terrorist. And if we read this document itself, we can see that even on each of the steps, on each of the crimes, both military crimes, war crimes, and genocide crimes, and the crimes against humanity, European parliaments, they covered these step by step and wrote it down in their recognition document. So this is quite a speakable document. And obviously, we pay attention to the fact what does European Parliament urges us, and what does European Parliament urges the countries of European countries. We saw the urge for the additional set of sanctions. We saw another urge for absolute isolation of Russian Federation. This is correct things to do because, to my mind, a complete economical, even social diplomacy isolation of Russian Federation. This is are the means for Ukrainian victory, and it is important so that the country in the 21st century is doing, to my mind, the most robust and the most aggressive crimes during the war times, because right now we can call it armed conflict and aggression, but how does it war look then if it's not combat actions from the side of Russian Federation against our country? That is why this is one of the most heaviest and complicated crimes that a country could do in the 21st century. It is quite positive that this recognition of European Parliament was accepted, and we will take a look how European countries will react to these urges, because there are urges not only for sanctions but also for the urges for the isolation, primarily diplomatic isolation of Russian Federation, and the urges for designing the legislative base where how a European member country should deal with a country that is recognized as a terrorist. That is why we are thankful to our European partners, to Presidium of European Parliament, and we saw these colleagues not once there in Kyiv on the premises of Ukraine. They attended Ukraine, they visited to different regions of our country. They were there in Kyiv region, they saw Bucha, they saw Irpin. That is why this is an important diplomatic work for us, and the fact that they are coming here to us and they support us, this all boils down to this kind of resolutions and this kind of documents. Can you please tell us more about what we have to expect from European countries and partners? What reaction should we expect, and who completely agrees with these stages of Russia being a sponsor of terrorism, and who doubts that? Well, we already saw today the statement of different countries regarding the yesterday's shelling of Ukraine, and it is important for us to still receive this support by means of weapon systems, and for other countries to keep the isolation of Russia, so that they could not be able to produce any offensive means they are offending our territories with, and for them not to have any economical potential to be stable, because we all realize that economical crisis that will happen and already starts to happen in Russia, it should be deeper in order to make this country not all the top of military authorities, but even though rank and file citizens of Russia who are in Russia and still support the actions of their leadership against our countries, so that to make them to feel all the bargain and the consequences of their offense against our country. That is why I think that the countries of European Union, and we see that the majority of them, since we're talking about the majority, that luckily today for them they are able to influence the minority. So those who doubt about the fact of aggression of Russian Federation, so the majority manages to convince the minority. So today we see the complete support of European uh, Union as a collective body. That is why this resolution emphasizes one more time, as well as the giving Ukraine a status of the candidate for joining the EU that happened during the summertime. That is why those countries who are kind of problematic when it comes to communication and support, but as a collective body, European Union is working completely for the support of Ukraine. In terms of status of Russia as a sponsor of terrorists, we have already talked about this in the past, and about these urges, we already talked about them in the past. But now, how will this legislative mechanism will be implemented, and how fast the punishment of Russia will take place? Well, this is already taking place in a way, in a diplomatic way it can happen, and as well as in the judicial way. But on the level of our institutions, we primarily understand that this is the International Crime Court that takes into consideration some crimes of Russian Federation against Ukraine. It has a mandate for, but we also know that there is another type of crimes, and aggression, and unfortunately, in International Crime Court doesn't have mandate to consider this type of crimes and to bring somebody to justice. That is why Ukraine is advocating the question of creation international tribunal. In the history, there were events when the tribunals and trials have already taken place and managed to bring to success and managed to be successful and to bring those who gave an orders for the armed conflicts to justice. And for Ukraine, what is happening these days, this scale, and there is enough of arguments and facts in order to create an international tribunal and international trials in order to bring military leadership and political leadership to justice. That is why we continue doing our advocacy work, and the NATO Parliament Assembly recently accepted the resolution where it supported the creation of international trials. This is another diplomatic victory of Ukraine on another platform, on another international platform. That is why we are moving towards our designed plan in order to achieve the success of this tribunal. Yes, we know that bringing, especially Putin to justice, and others who has to do with military crimes in Ukraine among Russian representatives, it's not easy thing to do. But we see that today international trials is not easy to organize. What are the other obstacles to do this, and how much time it might need? Well, again, this is geopolitics, and here we have players who play in a different way due to their political views and so on. But if you take a look at the general and I would say global strategy of Ukraine with the most reliable partners, I would say that both Great Britain, United States, and European Union still they manage step by step to do the advocacy of our needs and our interest. And if we, for example, appeal to those documents accepted recently, we can recall UN Assembly that recognized the resolution about the estimation of reparations and what amount of money Russia has to pay back to Ukraine. And there is also an urge in such a way that this all might happen due to those arrested and confiscated of Russian stakes in other countries. This is a big work. This is the work of searching for mechanisms how Russia can pay Ukraine reparations. And by the way, in this statement on European Parliament level, there is a statement that Russia should be cut off from any international organizations as well as the Safety Council of UN. And I think that this is another task for the whole world community to cut off Russia from all the bodies responsible for the securities of all UN countries, and to make it as such a country that is the one that is disobeying these guarantees and resorts to the hardest and most complicated military crimes. That's why this is one more scenario that Ukraine continues to move along. Also, I would like to recall and emphasize that state as sponsor of terrorism was created in United States, and there is step-by-step plan how to punish this kind of state, also designed in the United States of America. But today we see that the position of US in terms of recognition of Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism is not just one-sided, because there is a view that this kind of recognition can decline the support to Ukraine and can harm to the support of Ukraine. How do you think the reaction of Ukraine will be? Well, Ukraine continues to insist that it is important for us, that the world countries, to recognize Russia as a sponsor of terrorism state, because some judicial and diplomacy relations between Ukraine and Russia, they lead to complete isolation of Russian Federation there on the world map in terms of relations with other countries. But we also understand that some kind of international balance, that's there is an attempt to keep it. And if we take a look, for example, at China and how China votes in General Assembly of UN and in the position during G20 Assembly, there is the same. There is some kind of balance, political balance, I would say, in the world that has been kept, and the decisions of different positions, we have them. And it is important to emphasize that in the United States. So, Miss Maryna, I'm sorry, there is the problems with communication and connection. So, Miss Maryna, if you hear me, please, I will ask you to repeat what you have just said.
На жаль, у нас
Unfortunately, we had a bad signal with Maryna Bardina. We are sorry for this inconvenience. We are expecting for the signal to come back, and I would like to recall that we were having a conversation with Maryna Bardina about People's Deputy on Ukraine. The topic of our conversation was that yesterday, the 23rd of November, European Parliament recognized Russia as the sponsor of the terrorism and how Russia will be punished for its crimes in Ukraine.
на жаль, зв'язок
Unfortunately, we didn't manage to restore the signal. We are thankful to Miss Maryna.
Дякую.
Thank you so much, Miss Maryna, for coming back to us. We managed to establish the signal again. So, we were talking about the reaction of the United States of America for the recognition of Russia as a sponsor of terrorism. However, we continue, and maybe as a last word, can you please tell us? Yeah, I'm sorry, there is still some kind of inconvenience because Miss Maryna does not hear us. Do you hear us now? Yes, I do. Okay, thank you so much. So, maybe to at the end we can add what is the final aim of this European Parliament resolution should we expect, because as a document it was voted for, that it was recognized that Russia is a sponsor of terrorism. We talked about practical steps, but what will the last aim and final aim will be? So the final aim should be implementation of these practical steps. European Parliament is urgent to, and is urging European countries to in its resolution. That's a new package of economical sanctions against Russian Federation, and especially this is advocacy work of cutting off Russia from Security Council of UN, and as well as the diplomatic isolation of Russian Federation on all the possible levels. All in all, the stop of all diplomatic relations with Russian Federation. All in all, It is absolutely in that. In this statement, in this recognition, there is non-compliance and with the actions of Russian Federation among the European countries and European Union as a collective body. Thank you so much. We had Maryna Bardina with us, People's Deputy of Ukraine. Thank you so much for this conversation. And we will come back to you soon. Please stay with us.